Okay. Hello students, this is Damini here, and we are going to today begin with mineral-based industries. We are doing this on behalf of personal tutors. So we have mineral-based industries. Today we are speaking about mineral-based industries. So when we speak about mineral-based industries, we are first going to speak about iron and steel industry. Now, what you need to know about iron and steel industry is, it is the basic industry. What do we mean when we say it is the basic industry? That means the other industries are dependent upon this industry for the production of machinery. This is the basic raw material from which other industries make their equipments. They are dependent upon this industry for making their equipment. So this is the basic industry. One of the most important industries which indicates the level of development of a country is measured on the basis of consumption of steel, consumption and production of steel. So it shows that how much is the country developed. What is the level of the development? If more machinery are being produced, more number of people are employed, more number of things are produced. So it basically indicates the level of development of the country. The iron and steel industry, basic industry, indicates the level of development of the country. Now, how exactly does this industry function? We are saying iron and steel, so we are saying that we have something called as iron ore, which is the basic raw material. This raw stone, the stone which consists of, which has large amount of iron, is converted into different ways into steel, or it is converted into wrought iron and then utilized by other industries, utilized for various other industries, maybe for railways, maybe for steel rims, it may be used for wheels. There are various uses for which this can be put. So how exactly is this being made, and how exactly what are the factors which decide the location of this particular industry? What decides the location? We need to know. To understand this location, we need to understand how it is made. So you need to know that there is a blast furnace, and in that blast furnace there is the impurities which are being separated, and the iron is being collected. The molten iron is being collected over here. The impurities are sent to it, okay. So this is the blast furnace, which has a very high temperature where this can be melted and converted into wrought iron or into ingots. So first here they put coal, iron ore and limestone. Now the limestone acts as a flux. It mixes up with the impurities into this. This is the melted iron. This is the melted iron which gets separated from this process. Here we get the melted iron. But whatever impurities are floating on top of this, when this is exposed to high temperature, this is called as blast furnace. It is exposed, it has very high temperature inside it. So in that high temperature, there is melting of this ore which takes place. And what have we mixed? We have mixed limestone and iron ore. This limestone will mix with the impurities, and then it will be taken out through a particular process. It is taken out and separated, while the remaining melted iron is collected separately. It gets collected separately. So this is one thing that we have to know: the raw materials, what are the things that are required for location of the iron and steel industry. When we speak about location, we have to know what are the raw materials. So mainly these two being heavy, coal and iron ore. Coal and iron ore being heavy. Lot of it depends on how these will be transferred from one place to another. So most of the industries are close to Chota Nagpur plateau because of the availability of these two. That means the industries, this is the belt of Chota Nagpur plateau. So most of these industries are in Madhya Pradesh or Bihar or Orissa, because this is easily available over here. Coal from Jharia and Raniganj, iron ore from places like Sundargarh. So this is how it decides where the industry will be located. Coal and iron ore is available over here. Then we have flux materials like limestone, which is limestone and dolomite for taking out the impurities. Along with that, that is also available in the nearby region, in this nearby region. And then we have the next one is manganese is required for making steel tough, which is again available here. This makes the steel tough, it gives it a luster. Okay, so this is again available here, and it has to be utilized from this particular region itself. So industry is located basically in this region because of the availability of raw material. Raw material, we have said, are coal, iron ore, limestone, dolomite, and manganese. Maybe even for preventing the rusting, they use certain other things along with that. And this was the locational aspect of where most of the industries are located. Now when we look at the iron and steel industry, they are of two categories, you have to know. We have the integrated iron and steel plants, and we have mini steel plants. What exactly are integrated iron and steel plants, and what exactly are mini steel plants? When we think about iron and steel industry, we are thinking about industries where this entire process is carried out. Melting of the ore, separating the iron, molten iron, converting them into ingots. Ingots are shapes made of iron so that it can be used for further use. So this all is done in the integrated steel plant. That means it uses raw material like coal, iron ore, manganese. So this integrated iron and steel plant will be located close to the availability of, located close to availability of raw material, wherever the raw material is available. Okay, this is located at a certain places only in country. It is not widely distributed. This is not widely distributed all over the country. It is confined to the places where raw material is available. So next thing is, now you have to set up a blast furnace. You need a number of people to work who are trained to work in this. So it is capital intensive. Requires a lot of money for starting this iron and steel industry if it is an integrated iron and steel plant. As compared to this is uses scrap iron. The iron which has been discarded, which you have sold off. A broken chair was sold off. It is discarded, that has been crushed and used by the many steel plants. So they use scrap iron. They are again making use of the waste. Secondly, these are located all over the country. They cater to the local demands. From this, they make a smaller thing which can be utilized by another industry. These generally depend upon the electric supply. They do not need very high power, so they just depend upon the electric supply. And then they are not very capital intensive. So you have to have a comparison between iron and steel plant, integrated iron and steel plant, mini iron and steel plant. What are their advantages? If you look at the advantages of mini steel plants, they cater to local demand. Whatever is demanded, locally they fulfill that. They cater to the local demand. They do not use their coal to run that, so they do not cause much pollution. They are not very capital intensive, so they can be started. They are less capital intensive. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of mini steel plants. They utilize the scrap iron, which is a waste. As compared to this, they actually produce the iron and steel for the country. They actually produce iron and steel for the country. They are responsible for the production for the development of the country by producing, by converting the raw iron into iron and steel. Now we have 11 integrated iron and steel plants in our country, out of which one is in private sector, that is the Tata Steel, Tata Iron and Steel. The rest all of them are in public sector. So the rest 10 are in public sector, one is in private sector. As compared to this, we have 173 mini steel plants spread all over the country. The many steel plants are roughly 173. They are spread all over the country and they cater to the local demands. We'll look into basically how these are provided with their raw material. So we'll basically look into one of these examples of how they are provided with the raw material for the industry. So when we look at one of the cases of raw materials and what are the factors which determine the location of this particular one, you have to know that integrated steel plants will be dealing with Tata Iron and Steel. We are calling it also as TISCO, which was developed in 1907. Okay, so this is a steel plant near Jharkhand, in Jharkhand, near Ranchi in Sakshi. It was started production in 1911. It started production. And this steel plant is responsible for production of iron sheets, sleepers, then we have rail wheels. Okay, so quite a lot of things are being produced: iron sheets, sleepers, rail wheels. Okay, how does it get its raw material? When we speak about the Tata Iron and Steel plant, it was developed by Jamshedji Tata. Okay, now this is located at Sakchi, and this steel plant it has a local river here, Subarnekha, which provides it with the water for cooling and other things. This gets its supply of water from Subarnekha and another river, Kharkai. The water is being supplied through this particular. For this steel plant, we get the iron, the hematite quality of iron from Nova Mandi. So within a range of 200 kilometers from Nova Mandi, we are getting the hematite variety of iron. And even manganese is being brought from here, Nova Mandi mines. Okay, in Singhbhum district in Orissa. So coal it gets from Jharia. It requires the coal which is brought from Jharia. So this is close by. Then we have hydroelectric power, hydroelectricity power, which is by Damodar Valley project. Limestone, which is required by the industry. Limestone is from, and dolomite is from Sundargarh and Singhbhum. So the raw materials are within a radius of 200 kilometers. Within this radius, the plant is located here, coal is coming from here, iron ore and manganese from here, limestone again from this Orissa region, dolomite from Orissa region, clean water from Subarnekha and Kharkai, which are the local rivers over here. So this was how we have discussed about the iron and steel industry, that is TISCO, which is a private sector industry locational factors, why it got located here, from where it got its raw material, what was the reason that it was set up in this particular region, why was it not set up elsewhere, but rather because the transportation cost of coal as well as the iron ore should be borne by the person who is running that particular industry. So that is how this TISCO, Tata Iron and Steel. You'll have to remember that this was an integrated steel plant where the entire melting of the iron ore is done, as well as the ingots are made for the further development of the industries. An integrated steel plant. So in this part, you'll have to remember, when you're reading about steel industries, you'll have to basically remember the difference between mini steel plant and the integrated steel plant. The main questions that are being asked. Integrated steel plant. The second thing that you will learn under this is your first thing, advantages and disadvantages of mini steel plant. We have done the advantages: caters to the local demand, do not cause much pollution, are less capital intensive, and we have to remember the integrated. You'll have to write the opposite of this as the disadvantages. Like integrated steel plants are located at a particular place, so they cannot fulfill the demands of the entire country. That means the local demands of the entire country. They require huge capital investment. This is a drawback of integrated steel plant. But then advantages, they provide employment to large number of people. When we speak about the advantages of the integrated steel plant, they help in the development of the country by production of iron and steel. They provide employment to large number of people. So this is another thing that you'll have to remember. And along with that, the third thing you'll have to remember is from where do the steel plants obtain their integrated steel plants obtain their raw material. Okay, they generally ask you questions like, from where does TISCO get its supply of limestone? From where does TISCO get the supply of iron ore and coal? So you have 4 integrated plants in your syllabus, and you'll have to remember those 4 steel plants, their sources of raw material. This is the gist of it in the entire steel plants briefly. सब बंद कर दीजिए इसको.